County Wetland Board will come to order. We'd like to welcome all present and anyone wishing to speak to any of the applications. Please indicate so that you can have that opportunity. I'd like to introduce the staff. To my left, well, she's not in here right now, but she will be Crystal Way and Glen Rowe and Olivia Hall, which is our main. And so with that said, she's also the Director of Planning and Land Use. VMRC staff is Brad Realms, Kylie Harris, and Justin Worrell. And introducing our Wetland Board, to my left is Will Toll, Cecil Little, can't think, Bruce Julian, and Andy. I'm so used to saying Hunter, I guess that's what threw me off. Okay, with that said, I'd like to call the first applicant up, which is Topside. Someone here to represent that.
Good morning.
I'd like to read the ad, please. Topside LLC in care of Scott Stevens, in care of Kelsey Haney, Ransom's Nursery and Maintenance. They're requesting permission to install 110 feet of Class 1 riprap sill of living shoreline with 60 cubic yards of clean sand fill and 880 square feet of wetland plantings and an additional 300 feet of riprap revetment along the eroding shoreline of Carter's Creek located off Virginia State Highway 200, Irvington Road on Steamboat Lane, tax map number 33-361, BMRC number 25-2084. NAO-25 2025-00805. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Kelsey Haney with Ransom's Nursery. I'm here to represent Topside. So this project, as you guys saw on Tuesday, includes a 110-foot section of living shoreline that will be placed in front of the existing marsh there. The existing riprap along the shoreline will be removed and used as core material in that sill. And then the remainder of this project will be a riprap revetment. I'm sure we saw the active erosion occurring and the salt bushes and the footprint of the proposed revetment. Topside LLC has purchased 70 square feet of mitigation credits from the Nature Conservancy's mitigation bank in order to mitigate for that loss of vegetated wetlands. And that the Nature Conservancy has received the funds for this and are processing the issuance of those credits. Any questions for me? I'm happy to answer.
Have you finished this one?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Olivia, do you have anything you'd like to?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chairwoman, this project comes with elements of living shoreline on one section, and Kelsey has done a good job of addressing the new wetlands mitigation compensation requirement. So if you choose to approve this project, in your outline, we've worded a recommended potential motion for you all, which contains the language that would be required in the permit. The Code of Virginia requires a ratio of 1-to-1 for this option for compensatory mitigation. And based on those calculations, the vegetated wetland impacts are 0.0016 of an acre, and the credits required are 0.0016. or .0016. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
BMRC?
At first, I was trying to look at this one and see if there was any way to avoid these salt bushes, but the impacts were unavoidable, and we decided that compensating for one salt bush equals 1 square foot of wetlands loss. And I'm glad that Kelsey counted all the 70-some salt bush trees. So, yeah, and I'm hopeful that this compensation transition process was easy for you, so.
Do you want me to read this recommendation, or,
Whatever the will of the board is, Madam Chairwoman,
oh,
you can call for a motion at this time, and if someone will make the motion, you can proceed with the vote.
I have some comments and questions.
okay.
For you, Kelsey, I think on site I mentioned there, and you're aware of the fact that there's a U.S. Army benchmark there on the point that certainly needs to be protected, and let the contractor know that that cannot be damaged. I would suggest some staking to ensure that is not moved. I don't know, maybe it was put there a long time ago, but it's an artifact. Maybe there was going to be a landing craft or aircraft carrier come in there. The other thing is the other concern I have, and for the other consultants, we constantly see landowners mowing grass on about an inch high, right down to the water, right down to the eroded area, only making damage to the resources worse. And I would hope that as you move forward and talk to landowners about options, that we can get some people to stop mowing. We saw that on every site almost yesterday, just totally wrecking, because we like tall fescue, I guess, running down to the water. And we saw some good examples, particularly up on the river, where great natives, some grasses, maintain the view. We're just not mowing. So I just make those comments. And for Brad, we're going to be talking about mitigation here a little bit later on the agenda, but, and I've had a little bit of experience with that at USDA, but who determines that mitigation is even required? Is it greater than de minimis? Is it different than the Corps of Engineers, where they look at less than 1/10 of an acre or de minimis value? It's my understanding that you all at the present are talking about 1-to-1 based on area, not based on value, using a hydrogeomorphic analysis. So is all we're doing is measuring or counting plants?
Yeah, that's correct. Whatever species are within the tidal wetlands list in the state code, there's a list of species that are defined in the state code that require compensation. And so in this case, there was just salt bushes, and it's uniform throughout. Whatever species it is gets the same compensation. And in this case, the salt bushes, we take a stance that one tree equals 1 square foot. So there is no quality difference as far as the different species. So they're all treated the same. And then if you want to go over state code, the change with compensation, because the first option is a mitigation bank, but
We've got an agenda item. We can
Yeah.
talk about that later.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure I understand this, that if there was one salt bush out there, you're going to require mitigation?
yeah.
And that the regulation that came out in February,
Correct.
did that have any public hearing?
No, that was it did, okay.
Nope, no further comments or questions.
Anyone else on the board? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this? If not, I recommend a motion, please. And I guess we follow the protocol here in front of us.
Recommend approval of the project pending proof of the purchase of wetlands credits for the compensatory mitigation at the required ratio of 1:1 as dictated by the Code of Virginia. The vegetated wetlands impacts are 0.0016 acre, and the credits required are 0.0016.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Okay. Moved and second. Vote 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next one on the agenda is Michael C. Denton. Is someone here representing him?
Madam Chairwoman, if I may, for the record, the Stanton Lawrence application, the third, and Dwight Clark, VMRC number 2025-2405, was tabled at the agent's request, and that was number 2 on the list. We're going to have to re-advertise that for public hearing as they're doing some revisions to their design. So we don't need to hold a public hearing on that today as the design is going to change. And so we're moving on to number 3, which is the Denton project. Thank you.
Okay. For Mr. Denton, I'll read the ads. Michael C. Denton, Carol, is that Gil?
Gil.
Michael and Amy Coyle and Bonnie Roden and Megan Rudd, care of Roger McKinley. They are requesting permission to install 8 timber replacement groins, each measuring 48 feet in length and extending from the shoreline of the Rappahannock River, located off 4th Street off Virginia State Highway 774 Granville Bay Road on Dillon Drive, tax map numbers 19B-2-128, 19B-2-129, 19B-2-130, 19B-2-131, and 19B-2-132. VMRC numbers 2366, NAO-2025-0236. Thank you.
Yes, good morning. Roger McKinley, 691 Mill Point Drive in Eastville, Virginia. We have a group of homeowners that are adjacent to one another that have properties on the Rappahannock River that over the course of the last few years, the existing groins that they had on their property have deteriorated to the point where they're no longer effective. So what we're proposing now is to either replace or repair the ones that are existing and install new ones across these 5 properties. You all were on the site yesterday and saw what we were experiencing. So they really need these to try to build the beach back up. And the reason for the spacing on this, if you could look at the aerial photograph that I submitted with the application, down in the lower side below the circle, you can see where the existing growing fields are still there. And they were fairly close to one another, about 60, 70 feet apart. So we tried to replicate that to get back to where we were before all these got destroyed and washed out. So that's the project, and I'm able to answer any questions that you all may have.
Olivia, do you have any?
Staff has no comment, Madam Chairwoman.
I'm sorry.
Staff has no comment. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Reed?
No comment from VMRC.
Anyone on the board?
Olivia, just refresh me, the reason this is principally VMRC's call here within their jurisdiction, so what triggers that to come to this board?
Right, so we're tying into the intertidal zone with these groins, as you see in the pictures here. So that is part of your jurisdiction, the 1.5 times mean high water, mean low water to mean high water. So our site visits show that there aren't any vegetated wetlands impacts in the proposed locations of the groins.
Thank you. And Roger, we had a brief conversation while yesterday discussing the high-quality materials of wooden
Yes.
groins that don't even last 20 years anymore. That even though your application states timber replacement groins, that the landowners would be free, and I asked Livia too, that a permit as such would allow them to put in a product that could last longer than 20 years then.
That would be awesome if you'd let them have that, you know. I spoke with Mr. Denton yesterday after you all left the site, and I gave him the name of a company that I used to purchase that material from down in Atlanta. And because there are going to be so many and so many linear feet, I think that they could just buy it in bulk straight from the manufacturer, which I don't think would upset the contractor any, but it would give them a better deal. And they have an engineering part of their company down there that will take a look at the site, and they will make engineering recommendations for what size and what thickness of the material should be used there.
That would be vinyl sheet pile?
And that's free, you know, to the consumer. So I talked with him yesterday, and I think that's kind of where they're headed. But if you'll allow that within your motion to have the flexibility to change it without having to redraw everything, that would be awesome.
Brad, you got any concerns with that, using vinyl sheet pile?
No.
Same impacts.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I would just like to say, too, that the board, as usual, appreciates the fact that property owners are working together to solve problems.
That's
Sure.
extremely helpful.
Amen.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this? Is there anyone online, Glenn? No, ma'am. Okay. No further comments. I'll entertain a motion. Someone like to make the motion?
Yeah, I'd like to move, we approve the project as submitted, given that the engineering is based on the quality of material for that application.
Is there a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next on the agenda is Robert Muse.
Yes, ma'am. Joseph Scott, Salterra Solutions, PO Box 1744, Kilmarnock, Virginia 22482. I'm the agent for the applicant.
I'd like to read the ad, please. Robert Muse and care of Salterra Solutions LLC. They're requesting permission to install 48 linear feet of riprap revetment along the eroding shoreline of the Rappahannock River located off Virginia State Highway 625, Whitehall Road on Paynes Creek Road, tax map number 25-288, BMRC number 25-2012. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this project is essentially the extension of an existing revetment that has been flanked. It's on a pretty exposed spot of the Rappahannock River, and over the last, according to the owners and the owners' children, this little area in here has been washed out pretty badly, pretty much since this time last year. So what they're going to do is just, from the existing end of the existing revetment, it goes about 48 feet right up into the bank. There's really no way for them to secure it any more than that because of the neighbor's property next door is unprotected. So all they're wanting to do here is to actually just do this extension and cap that off, and then they'll need to grade that bank above it in order for it to, well, it's kind of grading itself as we speak, but they'll go ahead and bring that into the existing grade that's on the front side of this project. I say front side, I guess it would be the southwest side, so that's it. Oh, well, no, it's actually not it. Unless, do you want me to address the mitigation stuff right now? Okay. So right in this picture, buried beneath all of that that's fallen off of that bank there, there's about 3 square feet of patents that are jurisdictional, and they are obviously not, they can't be worked around. The stone is going to have to go right over top of them. So as such, that was brought to our attention by Tiffany. We went back down there and you know, Olivia took a look at it and I took a look at it and confirmed, yeah, that is what it is. So we have contacted the Nature Conservancy well over a week ago. I guess it's been about 10 days now. They did say that credits are available. We did fill out the forms, and I have not heard anything from them since. So the homeowner, the property owner, is very willing to purchase the credits, and we have all of that in motion. I'm just waiting, this sounds kind of crass, but I'm waiting on someone to do their job, portion of it, so that we can secure it. Like I said, we filled out the paperwork. I've sent it in. I don't know if I copied you on that email or not,
You did.
but she did confirm to me prior to us filling out the information that the credits were available. And it's, I don't know, it's like 0.0000001. It's a tiny little amount, so. But that's all in motion, and if you decided that you wanted to approve this today, which hopefully you will, you know, you can add that little caveat of you can't issue the permit to me until we have that confirmed, but that's all. Everyone's on board on our side in terms of purchasing it.
Do you have anything you'd like to add, Olivia?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Again, in your outline, there is a potential motion recommended. So if you wish to approve the project, the motion could say recommend approval of project pending proof of the purchase of wetlands credits for compensatory mitigation at the required ratio of 1:1 as dictated by the Code of Virginia. The vegetated wetlands impacts are 0.000068 acre, and the credits required are 0.0001, which I believe was the minimum that you could
Yes.
purchase. So that's why that number is a little bit different than the other number you looked at. It simply wasn't a large enough number to be 1:1. So, thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Mr. Williams,
No comment.
anyone on the board?
So these, this massive amount of patents, is that above, Brad, is that above VMRC jurisdiction?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Are the patents above, outside VMRC jurisdiction? Is it above mean low?
Yeah, above mean low, sure, yes.
Olivia, do we have anything in our ordinance, county ordinance, that addresses required mandatory compensatory mitigation?
No, we were going to discuss that a little bit. We're going to look to add ad hoc in lieu of fees as the last line of defense, basically, for approving a project if you can't get through the first three options, or if you don't have the first three as an option. As Brad stated, option one is not an option right now for us on the northern neck. Option two is what Joey's doing right now, and we can go through the rest of the options in the other business section.
What's the cost of this credit?
So it's all in well, I'm not an expert in this, and, but from my dealings with it here and in another county, last month, there are various prices and various
So
watersheds.
you have been quoted from TMC what this is going to cost?
And various watersheds. So this, I believe, is going to cost them, it's marginal, maybe like $100. But the ranges I've seen of anywhere from $30 to $50 a square foot, and it has been, my understanding, it's been calculated by the value of the property. So like on the Rappahannock River, the 1 acre of land is valued at $1 million, and then they take and they divide that by however many square feet. What is it, 44,300 and some change? So like I said, I'm encountering prices between $30 and $40, and we had to buy the minimum, which was, I think, at like $100. And then I did one that I did in Northumberland had 30 square feet, and it was about $1,000. But that was a different watershed. That was cheaper over there. So.
And I will say the state code mentions the 1-to-1 for the first and the second option, but the option of ad hoc in lieu of fees, I believe, is 2-to-1. So whatever language we craft, we're going to have the county attorney make sure we're complying with all that correctly. So that ad hoc should be more like a 2-to-1.
Brad, does VMRC have any model county ordinances they could share? As we've got 20-some jurisdictions in the Commonwealth, it would be nice if we were all marching down the road together with some consistency, particularly as we do have to work with the county attorney, and we will have to have public hearings here as we change anything in the ordinance. So if we don't, I'm going to make a motion that we request formally from the commissioner that VMRC put out some model ordinance that we could at least start from something to address this.
I think that maybe it's so various or varied between the different localities, and I'm not sure that that would be something that we could, I'm not sure we could legally request that. I'm not sure, so.
We can legally request it.
Okay.
You know, when we started way back down this road 35 years ago, those models were put out to the counties. And as we adopted established wetland boards, you know, we asked for the same back when we entered into the living shoreline statutory requirements and regulatory requirements. We as counties asked for the same. It would be nice to know and to get our neighbors all started down the same paths together. That's just you don't need to answer that now, but we're gonna request that I want to make sure we're in alignment with your regulations and the Code of Virginia. Question for Joey. Joey, this guy is fighting a big battle here on this 30-foot bluff, and he's now down to the property line. And as you say, it's what's your thought? I know you can't predict what's going to happen, but now that he's down completely to protect his property down to the property line, and we get winds. Can we go back to that one area or that one area? And we get winds out of the
Southwest.
The southwest. Is there anything that's going to stop from breaching?
Now, it's my understanding that this area that you see that's kind of washed out now was not anything like that. Those steps went right down the side of where that is, so it's washed out another 10 or 15 feet over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. So the area where the Peytons were was actually a hill at one time. And until the neighbor does something, they're kind of stuck. This wasn't needed because at one time, you know, it was tight to where it was, and they stopped the revetment based on where the damage was. So my only prediction is they'll just have to keep going back until the neighbor does something. I mean, it's kind of carved out itself there. That bank next to it is unlike the banks further down where, off Courtney Road, where they're doing a lot of work right now. Those banks have, and I'm not a geoscientist, by the way, this is just observation, but those banks have lots of clay in them, and they aren't eroding away as fast. This bank has a ton of really nice sand in it.
Yeah, that's the picture I want. The
Yeah,
one- the-
which
the
is
one-
nice,
the
but
one-
it's-
The one of Joey's view there, back one more, that one.
Yeah, so that bank has a lot of sand in it, so it's just gonna continue to wash, and there is some sort of family relationship between these two adjacent property owners, but I don't know what it is. But from talking to Miss Muse, who is Robert Muse's daughter-in-law, I don't think it's an admirable relationship, so.
Well, that's it, you know, it's one of the worst, scariest. Some of us were stupid enough yesterday to walk up and feel that pure sand in that bank. And nobody got killed out there,
Yeah,
but
I mean, it would be a great place for breakwaters, their property would be, because they could shove all of that in there.
right.
Because like I said, the breakwaters they're doing at Courtney, they pretty much found out that there's not a whole lot of sand in that bank, so there's a whole lot of it.
That next property there south, there's no homes on that. Is there a house on that?
So I believe the house that is out by the road when you come in
Okay.
is part of, or is on that parcel, but I'm not certain. But I don't believe that parcel that's out, that house is on a separate parcel. I believe it's all one large. My guess is that it was probably all one farm at one time, and that was the original house, which is typical you see around here, and got
Well,
carved up.
I guess with the sand source there, that'll help fill up some groins up and down the road.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that, essentially what they're doing is just kind of what they have to do, which is just extend it further back.
Understand.
And they are absolutely not excited at all to have to spend the money. I mean, I'm telling you, so.
The money-
They wanted me to try to bring a bulkhead in front of you guys so that it would be cheaper, and I was like, they'll never approve it, and you probably shouldn't put it in right here, so they're definitely not excited about having to spend the money, but they gotta do it, so. Because it's, like you said, that's southwest, and it doesn't always get ranked, but when it does in the Rappahannock, it's typically from the southwest,
It's coming right up the river.
so.
Okay, thank you. That's, no further questions.
Anyone else? Is anyone in the audience? Anyone online, Glenn? Okay. A motion, please, if you read what's at the bottom of this page, which is recommended. So, do I have someone to make a motion and read this?
I recommend approval of the project pending proof of the purchase of wetlands credits for compensatory mitigation at the required ratio of 1:1 as dictated by the Code of Virginia. Vegetated wetlands impact are 0.000068 acre, and the credits required are 0.0001.
And I'll second.
It's removed and second. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Is the next one mine, too? Yeah, okay.
The next on the agenda is Stephen Webster.
That's mine as well, Joseph Scott. Salterra Solutions, P.O. Box 1744, Kilmarnock, Virginia 22482. I am the agent for the applicant.
I'd like to read the ad, please. Stephen Webster and Care Salterra Solutions LLC. They're requesting permission to install a 80 linear feet of riprap revetment along the eroding shoreline of Mars Creek, located off Virginia State Highway 610 Oak Hill Road on Yankee Point Road, tax map number 26F-1-1, VMRC number 25-2384, NAO 2025-02390. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Webster's own the property next to this at 502. And at some point in recent years, they purchased this lot that actually had a house on it at one point. So all they're looking to do is to connect into the existing revetment that is on their property and bring it all the way around to a stopping point right there where most of the existing vegetated wetland area begins. When I met them on site, we talked about all sorts of options in terms of trying to do a living shoreline, or I even said, hey, if you wanted to do offshore sill, like a brill, breakwater type thing, it would be a great place for a nice beach. But two problems with that. One is cost, and the second one is SAV is mapped right up to the shoreline. So that would have been a fight not even worth fighting. So essentially what we're going to do is a revetment that's going to be the same height as the existing revetment on 502 property, and then at some point it's going, or all the way down to point 1, it's going to taper down just to the top of the bank along there. They will be able to keep it tight to the shore in that area because there is lawn there, so they'll be able to excavate a portion of that to keep the riprap behind. The little bit of Peyton's that's growing there in section A before it spreads out into the vegetated fringe marsh. There are some Peyton's on the upland bank, but the bank's 18 inches tall, and the tide's right at the base of it, so I guess, and I'm not a professional delineator or a wetland scientist or an engineer, but I considered that to be out of the board's jurisdiction, so I didn't account for those when we did the calculations of it, because they're growing up in basically the yard, kind of what you had mentioned earlier, what Bruce had mentioned earlier. So all that being said, I guess that's it. If you have any questions for me.
Okay.
Okay, anyone on the board have any?
No,
Oh, Olivia, I'm sorry. You
Oh.
first.
Madam Chairwoman, I agree with Joey's assessment that the Peytons are outside of your jurisdiction, so we did not require mitigation there. Thank you.
Okay, anyone?
Brad?
VMRC.
No comment from VMRC.
Just, ready for us? Brad, does this require VMRC permit?
Doesn't look like it. It's not channelward of low water.
That's a no.
Pardon?
Is that a no?
Yeah, it's not my project,
So
but.
yeah, we've received
yeah.
a no permit need letter from
Okay.
Kylie, actually.
Thanks, Kylie. You think, Joey, we've talked about this several occasions before with ground saturations, obvious rise in sea level. Do you think this site has been affected by that saturation that's occurring all over the county?
Probably. And that's typically that, or I think a lot of this area is your continued high tides and the sailboat marinas there. I mean, the whole time I was staking down there, the boats coming in and out of Myers Creek
Boat week's a big deal.
pretty regularly. There was actually a pretty good sized one coming in there that kind of got everything rocking and rolling. So, I mean, the tide stays up on something like that for 2 or 3 days, which is very common now. It's probably what's kind of driven it back and had some undercutting there. Because when it goes out, it's a good area there, but obviously when you look at the site, there is a fair amount of undercutting. So, but that's just a guess.
That's it for me.
Anyone else on the board?
No, I don't have a problem.
Anyone in, Mr. Williams,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yes, ma'am.
did finish what you were speaking to him about.
Oh, yeah, he asked about us requiring a permit, and
I
it's,
just wanted to make sure.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
you had an
Thank you.
opportunity in case you needed to.
right.
Okay, is anyone in the audience? Anyone online? No? If not, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the project as submitted.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by raising. Okay, 5-0.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Peter Sherman. Someone here representing her?
Madam Chairwoman, I do not see the agent in the hearing room. Glenn, are they online? Amanda Horsley? With docket? They are not in the hearing room, Madam Chairwoman.
So we go ahead and continue,
We could proceed, they just won't be able to answer any questions for you.
okay?
I think in the absence of any representative for this
Yeah.
project, we need to table this.
How does the rest of the board feel?
Is that the will of the board to table it?
I'm sorry.
Is that the will of the board to table it?
If you like,
That's
I
what
can
I'm
make
asking.
I can make a motion.
Well, I want first to check with Mr. Reeves, see if he has any.
It's typically not necessary, I would say, with the boards I've dealt with. You know, applicant or agent may not attend, and the board still hears it, but that's your discretion.
Anyone in?
In the past, I believe you all have heard it if someone can't be here.
I can't understand.
In the past, I believe you all have heard the application if someone cannot be here, and it will be extra cost if we have to advertise it again. We've advertised the public hearing, so it's 20 feet of riprap or vetment, but it's the will of the board if you want to proceed with a vote or table it.
Consensus of the board, am I hearing table it,
It's been the history of this board
that we just
that,
table this?
that,
Due to the fact that.
I mean, in the 7 or 8 years I've been on this board, I have never been present when a landowner or an agent is a no-show that we pass the, I've never seen that happen in my presence.
Well, does anyone in the audience have anything they'd like to add or whatever?
So if there's a concern with cost, what would that cost be?
Well, typically, it's $300, and they've paid the fee, and we've advertised.
But the cost would be the advertising, to re-advertise?
Correct, but also mailing APOs, which we've already done. So it would just be the re-advertising as a public hearing.
Is there any, to your knowledge, is there, any reason why the agent or the landowner didn't show up?
There may have been some confusion there because originally we sent them a no permit required letter in error. It's also a dock application as well, but they were informed. I'm not sure why they didn't make it this morning, but based on that, I don't see any problem with proceeding since Brad with VOMRC has stated that it is okay, and that's what other wetlands boards do as well. But it's entirely the will of the board.
Well, I guess my thoughts are, apparently, must not have been important enough to the agent to be here. So that's not our fault. And I'm inclined to vote with Bruce here because we didn't keep him from coming. Am I correct?
Well, there's, I guess, another alternative here. We've got another agenda item to talk about on mitigation, and if it's possible to reach the agent, that the agent could come online to present the application and to answer any questions. I don't have any technical concerns about this small job here. I guess there seems to be some confusion about no permit needed, and yes, there is a permit needed, but if the agent wants to show up online, I would have no problem with that either, after we, at the end, but, so it's a,
I could try to contact them now.
Well, I'm inclined to table it. Yeah, on the other side of that coin is, we don't know why it didn't show up or whether or not online.
well,
And if they have to bear the extra expense, fine.
we all showed up today.
What do you think?
I wasn't able to reach her. Do we want to do a 5-minute recess and I'll try a different number that I have for her?
What's your thinking?
I think table it. Not our fault. I mean, if they don't respond, they could pick the phone up and they could have let Lydia know that if whatever came up, the difficulty that they couldn't be here, then we can, but
You never know.
this is what I'm saying. I have,
Hi, is this Amanda? We have your public hearing scheduled for right now. Is it possible for you to get online?
Andy, what do you think?
Okay.
Doesn't matter to me if you want to.
I can try to, well, is it okay if I just put her on speaker, or does she have to be online? Does she have to be online? All right. Amanda, I'm just going to try to put you on speaker. Amanda is at home with her sick daughter this morning. Hang on one second. All right, Amanda, I've got you on speaker.
Okay.
So can we proceed with the hearing, Madam Chairwoman? Can we proceed with the hearing, Madam Chairwoman?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Would you like to read the ad?
yes, I can, please. Peter Sherman, care of Dock It Marine Construction, is requesting to install 20 feet of riprap revetment along the eroding shoreline of the western branch of Currituck River, located off Virginia State Highway 1070 Currituck Drive on Bayview Drive, tax map number 20D-5-518, VMRC number 25-2121, NAO 2022-02161. Go ahead.
Okay, Amanda, do you want to speak to the project?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so it's installing 20 feet of riprap revetment along the eroding shoreline of the western branch of the Currituck River. Staff has no comment.
Okay.
You want to ask Mr. Reams if he has comment?
No comment from BMRC.
Okay, you
I have no comment. You may proceed with a vote if you desire.
okay?
Well, on the other hand, I think that I see nothing wrong with the project. And I am now leaning toward approving it.
You want to make a motion?
Go ahead.
If there's no further comments, I will make a motion. I will ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion, excuse me, I'll move to approve the project as submitted.
All, second?
Second.
All in favor? All right. Good enough.
All right, thank you, Amanda. The motion passed for the record. I'm going to hang up on you now, and we'll talk later. Thanks.
All
Bye-bye.
right, thanks, bye.
Okay. So, got that over. Now then, other business, the wetland mitigation. Who's going to speak to that?
That would be me, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you. So VMRC had made us aware of a change in February to the wetlands mitigation compensation policy, and that was shared with you in your packet. Based on this and the kind guidance of Brad Reams, who has helped us navigate these first couple projects that needed to comply, we are drafting some language for review and approval to update our code, to add ad hoc in lieu of fees, which is option number 4. Brad had laid out the options in an email when I had sent him an inquiry about this new guidance and what we needed to do to comply. So Brad, if I get anything wrong, feel free to correct me and chime in. He said the first option was going to be the private mitigation bank, and that's not available on the northern neck. So option 1 is not technically an option for us at this time. And then option 2 is VARTF. So you would purchase the VARTF credits, and in this case, those were purchased from the Nature Conservancy. That becomes our option number 1. I'm not aware of anyone else at this time where we can purchase credits. Does that sound accurate to you, Brad?
That's what, from what I understand. She said that there was, I believe there was one coming online at Dameron Marsh and Thompson. So I think this bank was up Rappahannock near Tappahannock or something like that. But there's other ones that are coming on, so it may be options for the board to consider.
Okay, and so if VARTF does not have available credits in our hydrologic unit code, then option number 3 is for on-site compensation. And if those don't work, we can move to off-site compensation, which would include the ad hoc in lieu of fees. And if you dig into that language closer in the Virginia code, it goes into more detail on those options. And it does mention that 2-to-1 on that ad hoc in lieu of. And it does give us a little bit of guidance on how we would use that funding. It says compensatory mitigation requirements may be met by payment of an ad hoc in lieu of fee only in exceptional circumstances where federal regulators do not require compensatory mitigation and the applicant demonstrates that other forms of compensatory mitigation are not available. So you need to go through those options in order. So this would be your last line of defense here. The use of ad hoc in lieu of fees must be the result of an agreed-upon permit condition between the applicant and the Commission or Wetlands Boards. Localities are encouraged to establish a fund for such payments that is dedicated to tidal wetlands restoration and creation. This could be the same fund established for the receipt of civil charges or civil penalties. Now, you all already have such a fund, so it should not be that difficult for us to establish this ad hoc in lieu of, since we can start using the existing fund that we have for violations. And then it goes on to talk about how that money can be used for wetland restoration or creation projects. And so that's all I had on that. Brad, did you have anything to add?
I think you covered it pretty well. You know, this transition hopefully is, you know, going to be a smoother process once the county and the agents and the applicants become familiar with it. So I have no other comments.
I believe, Justin, did you want to comment? If you could come up to the microphone, thank you.
If you don't mind. Good morning. My name's Justin Worrell. I think I saw you all about a year ago when Khadijah Payne was our staff and she left for a different occupation. As an aside, we also brought Kylie Harris with us today. I don't think you all have met her. Kylie Harris is our new engineer that will be specifically assigned to Lancaster County. So we appreciate Brad covering. Brad, I think you all met Tiffany as well. Tiffany, we are finally fully staffed as an engineering staff within Habitat. It's been some time. We've been playing musical chairs with moving some engineers around to cover different boards. So you all, for better or worse, have seen 3 or 4 different engineers, I think, over the past year, which is not a bad thing, but we'd like to have folks have a specific territory, get a little more comfortable with their staff, with their board, with their regions, with their agents and clientele. So you'll be seeing Kylie Harris more, and she'll be working with your staff more often. And we appreciate Brad coming up, but he now has other duties in other areas. So,
We
and
appreciate him too.
No, I'll miss working with y'all, and
We really appreciate it.
yeah,
Everything
I
you've
think
done.
y'all do a fine job here.
And we
Thank you, Brad.
do want to thank you all, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board and staff. Every year, we're losing more and more wetlands boards. And while VMRC will legally cover these required reviews and permits, we like to see these decisions held in the hands of the localities. So we do our best, and we appreciate the effort, the volunteer hours, and the staff hours, and the county's decision to maintain your wetlands board. Brad has mentioned something just a few moments ago. This wetlands mitigation compensation policy and the amendments to it, it has become more complicated, unfortunately. But I want to try and clear up a couple of things, couple of maybe misnomers or concerns regarding the process. And first of all, we've had an existing policy in place. So we're not, this isn't completely brand new. This is just an amended version of what we've been doing, what you all have been doing, what all the boards hopefully have been doing. So like Olivia and Brad mentioned, this was amended back in February of 2025, earlier this year. It would be very helpful that you have a copy and maybe include this in whatever packets you use to monthly have hearings and make decisions. It's not always the friendliest document to read, and it's not exciting. It's not going to keep you up. If you want to go to sleep at night quickly, you can probably read this. But it does specifically address some of the issues and concerns that we're having, and we want boards to address in terms of impact, potentially compensating for wetlands losses. And you all obviously know that it's your job to look at each and every project that is proposed to impact wetlands. What we want to make sure that everyone's very clear about the purpose and the process is you really need to take the idea or the question about compensation and set it aside on every project. And first and foremost, you have to look at what is proposed and whether that proposal is appropriate on the site. Forgetting about whether compensation mitigation is required or you're going to require it or what type you're going to require. First and foremost, is the proposal appropriate for the site? Whether it's a bulkhead, marsh toe sill, riprap revetment, your first job is to say, this needs to happen here because of this concern. Without that decision, there is no point in discussing or considering compensation. And there is no reason for compensation to ever determine whether you make the first decision. So you can't use the idea or the purpose, the product of compensation to justify what the proposal is. Okay, so what's happening, what we've seen, not just here and other boards, is people are getting really confused and concerned that they don't have an adequate amount of compensation available, whether it's monetary or on-site compensation. So they look at projects differently. What I would argue and put before you today is make sure you're looking at the project type and purpose first. You agree or you make the decision and hold the hearing that that purpose and project should be sponsored and approved, then you talk about compensation. Now, it's all one decision for one project, but first and foremost, is the project, is the proposal adequate for the site?
May
Then
I
you
say
go into
something,
compensation.
please?
Yes, ma'am.
I think, I've been on the board a long time. I think we have a wonderful board. they look at each application according to that application. Not what John Doe did next door or down the way of how we look at each application on an individual basis. And believe me, they cover it. And we have one of the best compliance officers. You couldn't find one at a regular state if you want to send out a patrol better than she is. I've been through many
Yes, ma'am.
compliance officers here, and they've all been nice, but she is thorough.
Yes, ma'am.
And when I need to know something, I say, what do you think, Olivia? If she says, I don't have to worry about it anymore, because she's right.
I understand.
And I just wanted to make that statement, so it goes.
Well, you're very
in
fortunate. You're
minutes,
very fortunate.
And it goes back to the commission. And we appreciate everything that Mr. Reams here has done. And we hope that he will continue to stay in contact with us.
Yes, ma'am. Well, appreciate those comments. What we want to point out also for the board, for your staff and your members, it's entirely within your power to make the decision of what compensation is required. And I don't say this flippantly so that you all can go from site to site and say, no compensation, or compensation, no compensation. But you all look at the projects, you all listen to the applicants and the agents, you read the drawings. It sounds like you all visit sites, which I applaud, because a lot of Wetlands Board members do not visit sites anymore. So I give you all a great deal of credit for that.
May I ask you this question?
Yes, ma'am.
If they do not visit that site, how can they sit there and make a determination whether they should?
That's a
pass
very
it
good
or
question.
not?
That's a very good
If you
question.
don't visit the site, our board, we visit, and it's worded so staff and members will be doing site visits on whatever date, whatever time, and that covers us.
Yes, ma'am. If I could wave a wand, I'd require that every Wetlands Board member go to every site, but we can't do that.
Yes, I don't see how you can consciously sit there and say, I think we could pass that. You have not seen what's there.
Understood. And again, I congratulate you all. Most localities send staff people, multiple staff people, and then they include pictures and create a packet. That's how most localities do it. Whether that's enough, I can't answer, but I do applaud you all for visiting the sites.
If you don't visit the site, you don't sit on this board.
I understand. Well, and just rest assured, whether you meet Brad or Kylie, or whether you met Khadijah or Tiffany, we're always at all the sites. Sometimes multiple times, we're at the sites.
That's okay. We're looking forward to working with you.
But what I did want to point out is that you all have the power to make decisions about compensation requirements. I noticed, or I heard a couple of times, there was reference to the code requiring this, the code requiring that. The code just lays out the policy and the ordinance. You have guidance that comes from VMRC that gives you recommendations about what to do. But at the end of the day, at this hearing, with the participation of agents, applicants, engineers, contractors, you all have the ability to look at a site, look at the proposal, and say, we think compensation is necessary here because. And you can do that with each and every project, and each and every project is different. So I'm going to give you some examples, and I'm not giving you examples in that you need to follow and do exactly what I'm providing, but we will see projects, boards will see projects that have riprap revetments proposed. And they may have a spot or two of some grass, some spartina, or some patons. Some boards will make the decision that we don't think compensation is necessary for that minimal impact based on the proposal of the riprap revetment. And they make that decision and they justify it based on the decision and the information they share with the agents, applicants, and at the hearings. In some cases, we'll have bulkheads proposed over sand flat with no vegetation. And board members will make decisions that compensation is necessary. And then they'll go through this list that Ms. Hall just basically laid out for you that's in this policy. So with each and every case, I would urge you all, along with your staff, to specifically identify what the impacts are, if they're vegetated impacts, if they're non-vegetated impacts, if the project is a good project, and you all determine that it doesn't need compensation, then say it and explain it and justify it. Likewise, if you do think compensation is necessary, detail it, discuss it, have that conversation with your agent and applicant why. That's the whole purpose of this hearing process, is to make sure that any and all concerns, questions, ideas are conveyed back and forth. But at the end of the day, with each decision, you all make that decision if the compensation is required, okay? Now, VMRC reviews every decision, regardless of whether there's compensation included, regardless of whether it's a beach, wetlands, grass, no grass, et cetera. We look at every decision, and we try to decide if we think it's appropriate in accordance with the Tidal Wetlands Ordinance and the Beaches and Dunes Ordinance, which I think you all both have authority over. So I want to make sure that you all know that VMRC is comfortable with you all making decisions about compensation, but we want you to ask questions and justify the necessity or the lack of requiring compensation with each project, okay? We've gone around, we've talked to different boards and different staff folks, and we realize this is a concerning or a confusing issue at times, but we want to make sure that the process hasn't changed in terms of what the boards can do and decide. It's just the question of whether compensation is required to offset the impacts that are occurring. Now, I will tell you that if you go to a site, and I'm sure any of your agents or applicants can, or contractors can tell you, if you go to a site and you find a lush Spartina marsh with no scar, no erosion, and someone proposes to install a bulkhead in the middle of it, you're going to ask questions, right? You're going to say, why are you doing this? This doesn't make any sense. What's the justification? So you apply that same process that you do in making a decision whether the project's appropriate to the compensation. So the compensation is not necessary if you don't think the project is necessary. So first and foremost with every project, just a reminder, make sure the project is worthwhile. Once the project is worthwhile, then have the discussion and the conversation about, well, do we think compensation is necessary to put rock over this sand here? Do we think compensation is necessary to bulkhead over an intertidal sand flat? So each and every site, you all look at each and every site, you all see the plans of each and every site. So those questions and those issues should be in the front of your mind when you're discussing it here, when you make those decisions. Now, we have boards all across the state that apply this slightly differently, okay? Some have in lieu fees that they require, what is now referenced as an ad hoc in lieu fee, but I will tell you the reason that's the last option in this amended policy is because we prefer that the boards not use their own in lieu fees. We would rather, if you're going to require compensation for an impact on site and you permit it, we would rather, if you're going to require compensation, go to a professional wetlands bank or a VARDF site, Nature Conservancy site, where they're actually, that's their job. That's their job to require, is to build a wetlands on site and maintain it in perpetuity. Now, if you can't do that, then you get down to an on-site compensation requirement, which is if I'm going to bulkhead this side of my property and I don't have a bank available to offset compensation, if you require it, then I've got a little bit of an area on this side of my farm or this side of my property where I can grade back and I can create a Spartina marsh. That's what's known as the on-site compensation or off-site compensation requirement. The very last component is the in lieu fee. And I'm not trying to deter you all or the county from creating your own in lieu fee system, but I would urge you to consider the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you all have not had your own in lieu fee system for years. Is that correct?
That's correct, but the Virginia code specifically states that it encourages Wetlands Board to
Okay.
create an ad hoc in lieu of
So
fee.
the second part of my point here is if you haven't had one for years, we are now sort of de-incentivizing, if that's the right word, incentivizing the use of that type of in lieu fee. So VMRC is basically telling you, this is the last option. We'd prefer that folks not do it or not have to do it. So the fact that you all are considering creating one now, when you didn't have one for the past years of the Wetlands Board existence, is interesting, to say the least. Now, I'm not saying that you can't create one and have one, but we're specifically telling you that we have reordered the alternatives of compensation. This is basically flipped over from what the recommendations were 5 years ago. And in lieu fee is the very last one. And keep in mind, what you would be doing is that you would be collecting money that the county would hold, and then the county is responsible for going and creating or restoring its own wetlands from money you're collecting from your citizens. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad idea. I'm just saying that from the regulatory standard, from VMRC's viewpoint, that's the very last thing we want you all to do, because we see counties and cities all across the state that are collecting thousands of dollars and holding on to it. And it's just sitting there because either they can't use it because they can't afford the property, or they can't figure out what properties they want to buy to create wetlands. So just be very careful with that. We will certainly work with you all, try to answer any questions. We will talk to our attorneys if you all want to create some type of language. I just want to point out that that's the very last alternative that we want to be considered when it comes to compensation, if compensation is even required. Okay, I know I've sort of, I've spelled out a lot. Some of it you may not have heard before, and it may be a little confusing. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Kylie's going to be here monthly. Certainly I or Randy Owen, our chief from Habitat, will be available to answer any questions if you all have them or if Olivia has them. But I just want to point out that some of the questions that were raised earlier and some of the discussion items, it's right here in this guidance. It may not be fun to read, but it's here. And some of the questions about whether or when VMRC requires compensation is specifically spelled out in this document.
I failed to mention Crystal Way over here in Glen Road, and they're a vital part of us too.
Yes, ma'am.
You see, they keep us straight. And
Well, like I said, we certainly appreciate you all as the board, the volunteer time and hours you all take to not only review and hold these hearings, but visit the sites. There are very few boards that visit the sites anymore, and we applaud that. And we applaud your staff's involvement as well. Anytime you have questions, this can be confusing. I just want to make sure you all understand that the compensation component that's required, or that you all required, is solely up to you in your decision-making process.
I also want to say how dedicated our board members are.
Yes, ma'am.
There's an alternate member, he comes to every site.
All right.
You know, unless, otherwise I mean, when available, or he can do it, and he's at every meeting and he's supporting us.
Yes, ma'am. It's good to have. Do you have any questions, Madam Chairwoman, or members of the board?
No, if I have any questions, I got my answers right here.
Oh, I'm in a VMRC today. I mean, we're here, we're glad to answer any questions in the forum
I know.
or after the meeting, either way.
Is there anything I question, go on, Olivia?
I have some questions.
I expected Mr. Julian would have a couple
I have
questions.
some questions, and just to assure you, I have read the policy.
Yes, sir.
And I've redlined the policy to look at consistency with Virginia code and our county ordinances. First question would be, what triggered the revision in February?
There was a General Assembly bill last year that recognized and actually urged the commission to amend their wetlands mitigation compensation policy.
Okay.
There was an actual panel, a group, what was the name of the group? In any event, they had a clever little name, but they met together a couple of times to revise and come up with the new order of the mitigation compensation policy.
Do we know what motivated the General Assembly to do that?
Oh, I can't speak to that, no, sir.
As we move down this road, in the volunteer work we do here, you know, there's some folks that have really badmouth in lieu fee as a pay to destroy only for the wealthy. You know, having been involved in some areas where $10,000 per acre for mitigation credits to a nonprofit or to a governmental entity, in some parts of the country, it becomes a way for some nonprofits to benefit. And the fact that you pointed out that stacking up money without compensation doesn't really help the resource at all.
That was one of our concerns, and I will admit, I worked Virginia Beach for 15 years or more, and when I left Virginia Beach, their in lieu fee fund was approaching $300,000. I'm not critical of Virginia Beach. They were collecting monies and the money going, because the money wasn't being used to create, restore, or enhance existing wetlands. And quite frankly, that was taken into account when they reordered the guidelines regarding compensation order. And there were specific comments about the very situation in Virginia Beach, that they didn't want localities just collecting and banking money without having a source to actually create or enhance or preserve or restore wetlands, when that was the whole purpose of the in lieu fee to begin with. So that was taken into account. I know that, and that's why I'm pointing out. I'm not saying that it's evil collecting in lieu fees as a locality, but it's obviously the last alternative, and it's not something that we're pushing on localities to do, even though it's laid out specifically. It's like it is the very last option. If you can't find a bank, VARDF doesn't have any credits, you have no on-site solution, then this was the only solution. And that's only if you required compensation. Keep in mind, if you had a project that was a riprap or a sill project, you thought it was a good living shoreline project, you may not have required compensation.
Understood. Understood. I guess, you know, having gone through many years in the federal environment and knowing what sequencing is all about to avoid, minimize, and lastly, mitigate in some form. Does the commission, what mechanism, if we could move people towards on-site mitigation, on-site compensation, which I prefer.
Understood.
What mechanism does VMRC require, an assurance? Let's say, okay, we're gonna go over here and mitigate on my property.
Yeah.
What of assurance that it doesn't get destroyed the next year?
Yeah,
the next owner wipes out the 2 acres of mitigation.
A very good point. Very good point. It's actually specified or somewhat addressed on page 4 or 5 at the top. Talks about a performance bond of letter of credit and also maintaining 2 full years of growing. That's another reason why the on-site compensation alternative or option for compensation was shifted to the bottom. It's now option 3, where it used to be option number 1. And that was the very issue too, is that we would have permits or Wetlands Board approvals that said, okay, we're gonna allow you to bulkhead here. You're gonna lose 100 square feet of either vegetated or non-vegetated, but you're gonna create the same amount over here. Well, what happens if they do part 1 and not part 2? And what happens if the property gets sold? Or what happens if they develop it, storm comes up, washes it all out? And those were the considerations that this group was dealing with and trying to figure out. Should we steer people and boards towards private banks or VARDF banks when that is their sole job and that they're required to maintain and provide inspection records in perpetuity, whether it's the federal, whether it's the Army Corps of Engineers, VMRC, DEQ, always out there making sure it's working, as opposed to Joe homeowner who says, well, I'm gonna create 50 square feet of wetlands. I tried, it didn't work. You gotta let me keep my bulkhead. So those are issues that were considered and some of our concerns, and that's why it's been reordered, because before this new amended policy, on-site compensation was number 1. We always wanted folks to compensate for their impact right next to, in that same watershed, and we thought it's a great idea. Ideally, it works perfect in a perfect world scenario, in that utopian version of, I will create my wetlands and it'll last forever because my bulkhead's gonna last forever. and it just wasn't happening. Whether it's a sale, property sale, storms come up, maybe someone doesn't install it correctly, you're not going to convince any locality that the bulkhead or riprap has to come out because they didn't create the wetlands correctly. It's just not going to happen. I can't see you all doing it. I can't see any board doing it. And those were the concerns we were having.
In my career, we're really good at issuing permits and permission. We're not very good at enforcement. Everybody runs the, when we get into enforcement actions, I can't find anybody.
Unfortunately.
At the state or federal level.
Unfortunately, I mean, you all see proposals with adequate drawings. You have good agents. I see Joey over here. He gives us good drawings, good details. We don't get that all over the state, but everything looks right when it's proposed. And when you go out there and you see the issue and you see the erosion and you see what it's going to become, that's the most perfect it'll ever be. And then when it's installed,
So we don't belabor this too long. Are there any of the wetland boards, i.e. counties, town, cities, that are running their own mitigation banks or in partnership with a nonprofit that you're aware of?
So certain localities, and I'll give you an example for City of Virginia Beach, they're in the process of creating their own city mitigation bank. But that's not available to private property citizens.
For themselves?
It's for themselves because they impact so many wetlands.
So the answer is no to my...
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
And if we get into this banking opportunity, are we looking at 8-digit HUCs or 10 or 12?
I think it's 8.
8-digit?
Mm-hmm. That's called out specifically
So
too in the code.
the watershed that, our service area that, we got two in this county, 2 different service areas at the 8-digit level. So I'm just looking at what potential customers might be attracted
Right.
to a bank.
Now, I'll tell you, we're hearing, like Brad mentioned, we're hearing of more and more sites. This is, like anything else, sometimes a change in law sparks private industry. We're hearing more and more of wetlands consumers, wetlands developers looking at sites, whether they're working privately or looking to sell to the Nature Conservancy. So we anticipate this building. Now, how long it's going to take, I don't know.
You've got to close this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Have you finished, sir?
If you all have questions, we're available. And for your staff, we're available after the meeting too.
Well, Olivia will let you know if we have problems. We look to her, if she has problems, we're going to back her.
Yeah, I understand.
Just as a
100%.
point of it, how many times does that commission overturn a wetlands board in a given year?
Overturned a wetlands board?
Yeah, disagree.
We go.
It happens, maybe once or twice a year.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, with that said, I call for approval of the September 11th September 11th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Move the minutes be approved.
All in favor?
A second.
Okay.
And in favor.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to say before I adjourn this meeting?
No, Madam Chairwoman. I think we've
Okay.
all said enough.
I adjourn this meeting at 10, might as well say 53. And I thank all of you.